Hello friends and welcome to my new Elemental Shaman guide for 9.2. I hope that everyone watching had a great holiday season. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really happy to be back pushing Mythic Plus and testing out some of these new changes to Shaman on the PTR. For the past few weeks, I've really been trying to close in on the IO score for the new Tormented Hero 0.1% title for M Plus on my Shaman, and now that I'm pretty much done rating Sanctum of Domination for the tier, I've got the mount, it's time to look at preparing for the next patch. So let's get into what Shaman is looking like for next tier. First up, let's talk about the changes that have been announced. The key things we've learned from the 9.2 patch announcement are the addition of tier sets as well as double legendaries. This will allow us to equip one standard legendary as well as one covenant specific legendary. And this really has Ele Shaman looking to play Night Fae next tier, as that's the covenant legendary that favors us the most, but more on that later, as there's also been some direct changes to Elemental Shaman that I want to go over first. Alright, so now I'm over onto the PTR so that we can go over some of the more notable changes for Elemental Shaman going into next tier, the presence of tier sets. The Elemental Shaman tier set really revolves around our elementals, particularly Storm or Fire Elemental. The two-piece is while our Storm or Fire Elemental is active, our Lava Burst deals 20% additional damage and we gain a Lava Surge proc every 8 seconds. Lava Surge proc is a free instant cast Lava Burst. This tier set is an exciting upgrade for Elemental Shaman and single target, something that we struggled heavily with in Sanctum of Domination on patchwork style fights like Guardian of the First Ones. With this, whenever we have our elementals active, our Lava Burst will do 20% more damage, and this looks to pair really nicely with our single target legendary, Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, which also buffs Lava Burst by another 20% when using the Lava Surge proc we gain from casting Earth Shock. The additional procs we're going to be gaining from this two-piece set will pair really nicely with the Master of the Elements talent row, which is already a staple of our single target, meaning that every spell we cast after Lava Burst will be buffed by another 20% damage. When you account for our 4-piece set bonus, it's pretty clear that we're going to be wanting to play the Primal Elementalist talent in 9.2. The 4-piece set bonus extends the duration of our elementals, and Primal Elementalist makes them 80% stronger. So just really nice synergy there between our elementals and our tier set. Unfortunately, our 2-piece at the moment does have some awkward drawbacks and some bugs on the PTR. When you have Storm Elemental talented, the set doesn't function at all. So we can only really test it with Fire Ele at the moment. And the 20% Lava Burst damage buff that was advertised and is a really exciting part of the single target damage gain is actually only functioning as a 5% increase in-game at the moment. And ignoring the fact that the set bonus doesn't work at all with Storm Elemental, which we can assume will be fixed as it's supposed to according to the tooltip, Storm Elemental really wants us to cast Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning due to the stacking cooldown reduction buff that those spells receive in our Storm Elemental windows, and the set bonus is entirely focused around Lava Burst. So those two things are kind of at odds, not a lot of synergy there, and it definitely pushes us towards playing Master of the Elements exclusively in single target, and Storm Ele only in Mythic Plus. And here on the PTR, in this rotation on the training dummies, you can really see the sheer amount of procs that are coming in from the tier set and the Windspeaker's legendary, as well as the Flame Shock being up. Constant Lava Burst procs, which means it's really easy to get high uptime on your Master of the Elements talent, as well as just to extend this Fire Elemental by a lot of time. The sheer uptime on Fire Ele is massive, pushing 80+%. When you add in the fact that we're going to get higher conduit levels, which means higher Call of the Flame conduit that extends the duration of our elementals, it's possible that we'll be able to approach 100% uptime in 9.2, especially if we're playing Night Fae. And the reason I mentioned Night Fae is it synergizes really well with our 4-piece set, which I'll be going over in a second. The Night Fae Covenant Legendary, Seeds of Rampant Growth, provides not only a crit buff when we use Fae Transfusion, but also cooldown reduction on our Fire and Storm Elementals. And so getting into our 4-piece set a little bit, casting Lava Burst extends the duration of our Storm or Fire Elemental by 1.5 seconds. Again, you can see that kind of awkward interaction between Storm Ele and Lava Burst. We don't want to cast Lava Burst during Storm Ele, but Lava Burst is what extends our elementals. So we're probably looking to play a lot more Fire Ele in 9.2. as well as if your Storm Elemental or Fire Elemental is inactive, spending Maelstrom has a 20% chance to reduce its remaining cooldown by 10 seconds instead. So this whole 4-piece set is focused around giving us much higher uptime on our elementals going into 9.2. Overall, a lot going on here with our tier set, but it's entirely focused around our elementals and Lava Burst, which is just great news for Ele Shaman single target, which was by far and away our weak point in 9.1. AoE, we had that covered for sure with Echoes of the Great Sundering and the amount of AoE damage we could do with Earthquake. But in 9.2, this looks to kind of fix some of our weaknesses and make us a more balanced class overall. Unfortunately, there definitely are those awkward interactions between the Storm Elemental and the tier set that we talked about. I really hope to see changes to this. It would be nice to have the tier set affect Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning when we have our Storm Elemental talented, but we do already have that massive AoE capability, and the tier set is providing a lot more single target for us, which is good news for Ele Shaman, particularly in Raid in 9.2. Now, you probably heard me mention that we're wanting to play Night Fae in 9.2, and let me talk a little bit about why that is. We're going to be getting 2 legendaries in 9.2. So with double legendary, we'll be getting 1 standard and 1 Covenant legendary, and Night Fae is by far and away the Covenant legendary that fits Ele Shaman the best. The Night Fae Covenant legendary, Seeds of Rampant Growth, not only reduces the cooldown on our elementals, but it also gives us our best stat, crit, whenever we use Fae Transfusion. And honestly, the other Covenant legendaries just can't compete with that. The Kyrian legendary requires us to cast healing spells to get the proc off, which it just isn't worth it. The Necro one gives us a haste buff, and haste is not that great of a stat for elemental shamans, and unfortunately the Venthyr one just isn't tuned well enough. Not to mention, the soulbinds for Night Fae are fantastic for Ele Shaman. With Dreamweaver, you get a cheat death, fantastic for progression raid scenarios, as well as haste buff when you use Fae Transfusion, and Verse, which is a good stat for Ele Shaman single target. And with Karain, you have an amazing option for AoE, Mythic Plus. It gives you extra damage early on in packs, as well as a ton of crit, which is, again, our best stat. And now, if you're looking to prep your Ele Shaman for 9.2, you want to get your Night Fae renown for sure. Get that to 80, unlock all 3 of those soulbinds, especially Karain. That's a massive one for us. And then legendary-wise, you're looking to have Echoes of the Great Sundering and Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. Echoes for your AoE. This can go in shoulder or hands. Unfortunately, both of those are tier set spots, so maybe you want to wait, have it ready to go, and then craft it wherever you don't get the tier set drop for immediately, or just go ahead, craft it on hands, pick one. And for single target, you're gonna want Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, craft it on Cloak, that way it doesn't impact any of your tier sets. And with that, there's not much else to say about Ele Shaman going into the next patch. Overall, we're in a good spot. The tier set looks to provide a much needed boost to our previously weak single target, giving us a strong, consistent damage profile in both single target and AoE. The class is a strong option for getting into groups. It brings a short cooldown interrupt, hero, big AoE with tons of CC for Mythic Plus, and as I expect the bugs in our tier set to be fixed prior to the patch release, Ele Shaman is a great candidate for a ranged DPS spec to play in 9.2.